Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanny and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Not too bad.
Amazeballs. Fine and dandy.
Yes.
How are you, Schmitty?
Oh, I'll be fine now that
Bit
all
creaky.
my technical issues have stopped misbehaving.
You've been technical issues with an inch of a life, but you're
I
back.
have, but I'm on. Hello, am I on? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, testing.
So got any
Where's your-
news?
Oops. No, I do not.
Wow. Okay, boys.
Oh, yeah. So we went up to the Man from Snowy River Festival on the weekend up at Corryong. Absolute cracker. Talk about getting our cowboy on. It was like a little bit of going to Yellowstone World or something, but in Australia. You know, there were all the big hats and the boots and the
Belt buckles.
jeans and belt
Aw.
buckles and, the lot. There are Cobras and there are RM Williams.
Yeah.
It was all a rodeo going on. It was a lot of fun. We saw Ragnar Lothbrok there. I don't know if you saw
Yes,
that
I
on
saw him
Facebook.
photobombing you. Yeah. He really needs to get out of your pictures. Bit rude.
I know.
Well, he may have been strategically placed there, but, we'll blame him anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it was a really, really nice weekend and perfect weather. So we had a great time. That's our news.
Excellent.
How about you?
You know, we did that episode Fecal Matters a while ago.
The shit one.
The shit one. And it was inspired by one of my friends from the band from Legally Blonde, or Kind Did
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I caught up with them on the weekend and I said to Andrew, I said something to him and he said, I haven't listened to your show for a while because he's a bit of a regular listener. I said, really? You haven't even got to the one that I dedicated to you? And he says, what are you talking about? I said, Fecal Matters. And he then yesterday, I didn't see it till late at night, which I forwarded to the two of you, but I think we must have been asking the important questions in that episode.
Oh, is that what that thing is you sent last night? I didn't understand
about how
What
he
was
knew it was human shit. And he just sent me this message that says, I knew it was human shit because it had toilet paper on it.
Did they what?
Okay, I'm with you now.
Toilet paper.
So he'd actually gone and listened to it and then was just telling us the answer that obviously we'd opened a can of worms, so to speak, on that.
I woke up to that this morning and had
what
no
is
idea
this?
what that was all about.
I was looking at it going, should I say something? And I was like, well, I will because I don't know what it is.
Well, the
I was
follow-up,
like, what am I
thank you for
missing? Yeah.
the follow-up to
Yeah.
the story, which makes it worse, is that
Or better.
No, because I made some comment about it and he said, it's still there. I said, what do you mean it's still there? He says, I'll just keep watering it regularly, hoping it'll break down and go away. And
No.
I had the same response. I'm like, surely you would have got a pooper scooper and got rid of that, but he's just too.
How long?
I think it's just too repulsive. It's in the garden bed too. Yeah, because
No,
I
you
don't know about you guys.
that
but
is not a
beetles come
friendly
out
neighbour.
liquids. No, it's bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that was my
You need
news,
to
I
get
suppose.
onto him and tell him
Dung
that's not
beetles.
okay behaviour.
I know. Well,
Because what will happen is other people will come and do it there because they'll all be marking their territory and going, well, if someone else shits there, this is the shit spot, and all of a sudden you'll have a mound of it.
he said that I think I mentioned at the time that they had works going on in the property and the fence was down between them and the public venue next door. He said that the shit in the garden seemed to get the builders to hurry up because the fence was up the next day. So they haven't had another one since. But yeah, it wasn't their first shit in a garden, but I didn't realise this. Their other shit in the garden was at another house.
Because they don't get rid of them.
At a different house.
Well, see, now it's funny you should say that, Clarky, because Tony and I have a long-running debate about dog poo in the dog park. You're walking along and there's all these poos that people haven't picked up. And if I've got extra poo bags, I will pick them up. And Tony thinks that I'm doing someone else's work for them and so they'll just be happy to let me do it. And I think it's like graffiti. If there's no poo around...
Community service.
If there's no poo around, you feel less inclined to leave your poo there. It stands out, right?
More comfortable to walk bare feet.
Exactly. But if there's poo everywhere, you think, obviously it doesn't matter if I leave the dog poo. So on what side of the fence do you stand on that?
Another highbrow beginning to another episode for us.
Just don't
Tackling
leave it
the big
around.
issues.
It's
just
We're practically a current affair. We're practically a current affair.
I know.
It's true.
Anyway, I just that was my news. There you go. I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanny.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are
Trial by Wine.
And what are
and
we
poo and
drinking? And poo and shit and turds and stuff. Yep.
Oh gosh, I'm just on a little DC. And I could do a little bit of caffeine.
We're on the little RC.
Oh.
Also known as the Red Claw.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it's a delightful Pinot Noir from Mornington Peninsula. Get on that shit.
Delicious.
What about you, Schmitty? Something exotic?
What about you?
I'm drinking a Sauvignon Blanc from Ara Single Estate. This is a Marlborough wine from the Picton area. I rave about this. It's my favourite Sauv Blanc. Absolutely beautiful.
Are you having that whole bottle yourself?
Wouldn't be the first time.
Can you not pour so quickly? Because we're nearly through that whole bottle.
What?
Yes, we are.
Oh, shit, we are too.
That's my fault because of my technical issues. Sorry about that.
No, Stuart gets stuck into it, and I like to pour a little bit outside and then have a break so that I don't get sloshed.
Who's got a story for us?
I do. But I'm going to ask you to do something. I don't want you to Google until a certain point in the story. If you can just put a little freeze on that, it will reward you if you don't, I think. So
I don't normally Google it anyway. That's
I don't always. Sometimes I look at something, but more often than not, I don't.
I just want to see what they look like.
Yeah. I don't try and get ahead of the story or anything like that. That I don't want to know that.
No, and I've got time. You spent hours researching this. Why would I bother doing it? But
that's kind of the whole point. Otherwise, everyone else do it. Yeah.
Correct. But for me, I want to see what the characters look like. Yeah.
And this is important. I think what the characters look like. If you can sort of have it in your own mind, and then we do a little bit of a reveal later, I think it will be a good thing. But see how well I can paint the picture.
Now I've got it. This is terrible. What was that Cher film? She was the mum and Eric Stoltz.
Mask.
Yeah.
Mask,
now I've got that in my head. Anyway.
Oh.
I don't know where you're going with this, Swanny.
I don't know. That's actually I don't think I've seen that movie since I was a child. Geographically, you're in the right kind of area. So I'll start off with my sources. So I have used the New York Times, phillymag.com, thecinemaholic.com, dentistryIQ.com, and
That's a new one.
Love, Honor and Betray is an episode that I watched, and I'll tell you what it's the full title of it at the end. Yeah, but that's pretty much it, I think.
Swanny, did you, are some of those sources not relevant to the story and you just included them as like a red herring? Because I'm like,
no, they're not.
That is a broad mix.
I know. It will all play out. So today's story starts in Brooklyn, New York in 1992, and we're at a wedding. And it's the wedding day of an incredibly good-looking couple. Their names are Michael and Barbara, and their wedding is filmed.
So are you Googling incredibly good-looking couple?
I don't try to
1992.
So the best way I could describe it is, besides the fact they're incredibly good looking, there's actually footage of the entire wedding that I've watched, and they're very much in the fashion of that era. She is super glamorous, and by that, because it's 1992, she has a big dress on. It's got big shoulders, but she's tiny, very slender, quite tall. She's very tanned, and she's got big hair, and she's of an Italian descent, and her groom is kind of the male version of her. He is, again, super tall, really handsome, got a cracking tan. If I was to say that he was tall, dark and handsome, it wouldn't quite be giving you the whole picture. He is, again, super tan. They're this like Italian, I don't know, although it's 92, there's something a little bit 80s hangover. They're just perfect teeth, perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect bodies. You know, they are really good looking. And apparently they were known as sort of the Italian Ken and Barbie at the time. So they were totally smitten with each other. He was described as being a bit of a playboy, and then when he met Barbara, he totally fell for her. And she was described at the time as a 20 out of 10. So they were basically these two great-looking people who, when they met, they both talked about this incredible energy, and, you know, she describes him as being her 100% dream man. She could not believe that she was getting to marry him. And on the day of her wedding, she said it was like the gates to heaven had opened and that she had entered heaven. She was so in love with him, and also I think in love with the idea of him and what their future could hold. And Michael would have been exactly the same. These pair were just totally into each other and where their life was headed. So they are announced as Mr. and Mrs. Michael Mastromarino, and they have just been married.
That's a lot.
Yeah, Mastromarino. Marino.
How many
correct.
M's? Mr. and Mrs. Michael Mastromarino.
Mastromarino. Yeah, there's a lot.
All the M's.
It's exhausting.
Now, they'd been dating for about 3 years before they got married, and he had been an ex-footballer when he was at college, and he was now at medical school. So he had this...
Sporty and dumb.
Correct. So he was described as having like this incredible presence, really strong, very confident, and he really knew that he wanted to make a real success of his life. And to be honest, everything else that he touched had been successful, so nobody doubted that. And the reason they waited 3 years to get married was because he was still in, I think he was actually in dentistry school before they got married.
There's the connection.
Correct. There's the connection. So they were kind of gearing up to get married, so waiting for him to finish medical school. You know, he was actually he'd gone to University of Pittsburgh, and then he had qualified at New York University College of Dentistry. So they were just waiting for that to finish. And I know that they had their honeymoon about 6 months later. So whether he was just about to finish or there was some little, loose ends, but it kind of was a celebration of his hard work and then ready to sort of start this next phase of their life. So in 1994, they had their first child. And guess what they called their first son if the dad was Michael?
Michael Jr.
Michael Jr. But he went by the name of Little Mike.
MJ.
Little Mike. Little Mike. And the funniest one is they then had a second boy, and his name was Jerry.
Junior?
But no, his name was actually Gerald. But I didn't make that connection, but I should have.
We were running an event recently, and we had a person come to do a job at that, do a speaking role, and we were told that his name was X Junior, or Junior. It was two juniors, I think.
Right, yep.
And I was like, surely that would be X the third or X the fourth.
Yeah.
And I questioned it and said, seriously, I can't believe this person calls themselves Junior. Are you having me on? And they said, no, I checked, that's what he said. And I was like, okay. When he got up to announce who he is, he said, oh, hello, I'm such and such, the fourth. And I was like, for fuck's sake, who thinks Junior sounds right ever?
I can't believe that happened in Australia. I'm surprised that someone called themselves something the fourth. That's interesting.
I'm not sure if it is the fourth, but anyway, because it would be Junior, wouldn't it? Because you got the original number one. Oh no, that's one.
Is one
Two
junior?
would be the junior. Three would be junior. So it should have been, if he's the fourth, it should have been junior.
I've got a headache. Can we go back to the story?
Keep going.
Yeah, I've never really had a great deal of time for that sort of American
Succession
name. Yeah, I don't. I'm like, oh God. But it makes me laugh because it's so, I don't know, I guess Brooklyn or whatever, to have a baby called Little Mike. You know what I mean? Little Mike and Jerry. And Jerry, they sound like old men's names. So anyway, their names are actually Michael Jr. and Gerald.
Little Mike and Jerry.
Little Mike and Jerry. They're so funny. So they've got their small boys, and Dr. Michael Mastromarino has already made quite a mark. So he's actually a practicing cranial facial surgeon.
Oh, wow.
So not simply, not that there's anything simple about being a dentist, but he is really doing some quite magnificent work. He opens a practice with a few associates in East 18th Street, Manhattan. So this is,
Ritzy.
he's already the big time, right? Apparently he's pretty much instantly successful. He's brilliant at what he does. He's an excellent surgeon. And he starts making, well, it says making millions quickly, but I mean, I don't think you make millions quickly, but I think the money starts to roll in relatively quickly, and it's not long before they're already starting to see a very nice return in terms of the lifestyle that they're able to lead. They decide with the young boys that Manhattan, whilst they love, the energy of Manhattan, probably not the best place to raise the boys.
Yeah.
And now that they've got a bit of coin, they actually head to a place called Fort Lee in New Jersey. And if you were to look at a map, if you've got Manhattan, it's literally just across the Hudson. So I've been somewhere called Hoboken, and it sort of sits above that.
Yep.
Hoboken. But it's a little bit more, they say it's suburban, but it's really quite beautiful, big old houses, but in a more sort of suburban style neighbourhood. But again, you're literally the Hudson's on one side, so they're looking across, I think it's the George Washington Bridge, and you'd be in Manhattan. It'd be incredibly easy to get, on and off the island. They haven't moved, into Long Island or a long way or much further away. They are relatively close.
When you were talking about it, it reminded me of The Watcher. That was in Westfield, New Jersey.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So it's a very affluent part of New Jersey, but I think most of the areas that you see, they seem a little bit deeper. This surprised me how close to the river this was. So, as I said, big houses, probably, the American dream. So Barbara and Michael are just, so incredibly happy. They've got these two beautiful young boys. His business is going gangbusters. And by all accounts, they're living this sort of life in the suburbs where the kids are going to big parties. Everybody's very comfortable. So they are living the American dream. But life was about to change. Yeah.
And you can't possibly let that just go on.
No, we can't.
Yeah,
we all know that.
Until the kids
that was that.
And everyone lived happily ever after until they died of natural causes.
Absolutely. As I said, so now we're in February 2000. So they were married back in 92.
92, yeah.
Then they've had the boys, I think, what was it, 94 or 97?
94.
So the boys are little still. So in February 2000, they're living in Fort Lee. And Michael is at a business meeting that evening, but his parents are actually staying in the house with Barbara and Michael and the boys. So everyone heads off to bed, no big deal. And Barbara's woken up suddenly by Michael's mother at about 4 a.m. She comes in a panic saying, Barbara, there's something wrong with Michael. He's really unwell. I need your help. He needs your help. So Barbara says she wakes up in a fluster and she goes out and...
As in little Mike?
No, her husband. He's obviously returned from his business meeting. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't quite know how the mum knows that, but she's found him, I think, in the toilet or in the bathroom, sorry. And when she gets he stands up and he comes out of the bathroom. He's stumbling, and Barbara says that his eyes are sort of rolling in his head and he's got blood on him. And she's like, oh, my God, what's wrong? And his mum is saying he was shooting something into his arm.
What?
And Barbara's like, what do you mean? And she said, I think there's something, he's having, needle arrows. And she said, oh, okay, all right, to her mother-in-law, I think I know it is. He's had epidurals before in the past for his back pain because he'd had a back injury from football when he was at college. I think it'll be that, so she's trying to calm the mum down.
Isn't that in their spine, though?
Yes, but I think she's saying he has pain management.
He's got
medication for his back.
Yeah. Don't make more of it than needs be. I think it'll be okay. So she kind of says it's okay. The mum's, really upset, and she sends her off, and she gets him onto their bed, and she said he's just unrecognisable, off his head, can't focus, can't whatever else. She calms him down. He's mumbling, he's talking, he's not exactly coherent, but she's not worried that he's going to die. Like, she's just like, what on earth? Get to sleep, I'll sort this out. So she's got the mum off, she's got Michael in bed, and she heads into the bathroom to investigate. When she goes in there, it is a shit show. She finds dirty, used syringes, plural. She finds bloody tissues, and she finds right underneath their sort of vanity, hidden in one of his sort of toiletry bags, vials of fentanyl and Demerol.
Oh, no.
So it's all hidden in there, and she knows immediately that that's not, she can put the pieces together. Why is my husband using drugs?
You tried to put us onto that program, Interventions, which was all about people who had injuries and stuff who then had addictions to things like fentanyl.
That's horrendous.
Oxycontin.
So she said her head was absolutely spinning. This is like so out of character. The man I actually have next to in my bed looks unrecognizable from my beautiful, charming, stoic, I think he's a pretty quiet man. I don't think he was particularly what we'd call necessarily charismatic. I think he was pretty quiet, very reserved, but, very strong, silent type kind of thing. And he's just a mess, covered in blood, eyes rolling back of his head, just out of it. Mm-hmm. So she says she braces herself and she waits, for the next morning to go and confront him. So she goes down the stairs, and as she gets to the bottom of the stairs, he's standing there fixing his tie, ready to go to work.
Oh,
and she's like, hey, can we?
Yeah.
I think we might need to chat. I've found this. Why do you have fentanyl and Demerol in our bathroom, which you have clearly been using? And he says super casually, like, oh, yeah, I'm taking it for my back. I'm so sorry. I got the dosage wrong, and obviously I was out of it last night. Won't happen again. I didn't realize it would impact me that way. I'm so sorry that you had to see that. But yeah, it's just me managing my back pain. And she said that she sort of left spinning, but also kind of thinking, well, he's never done anything wrong before. He's a doctor. I want to believe him. He's a doctor. He knows what he's doing. Why would he do the wrong thing? He's managing it. He's made a mistake. He's told me what's happened. Mm-hmm. And she said, I trusted him. He was my perfect man. It had been perfect. I just can't believe it. He's not trying to hide what it is. He's like, oh, yeah. It's for my back, of course.
I fully expected you to say he totally gaslit her and said, what are you talking about? Never happened. Yeah. But no. Okay.
And I think that because he didn't do that and because he's gone on the, my God, I'm so sorry you had to see that.
How embarrassing.
I just obviously had more than I didn't realise what the impact would be, and look at what happened. Awkward. Yeah. However, a few weeks later, Barbara receives a call from one of Michael's associates. And he calls her and she says, I don't know why anyone would be calling me. No one needs to call me who's like a medical associate. You're not calling someone's wife at home. So she takes a call, and the associate says that he's gone into the theatre where a patient was prepped in and had already been anaesthetised, ready for surgery, but there was no sign of Michael. He's missing. They end up finding Michael unconscious on a bathroom floor, and they shake him and he sort of comes to, and he kind of just gets up and storms out. And no one stops him because they're all a bit sort of scared of him, and everyone's kind of in shock of the situation. But they take a call and they say, again, they've found, I think he'd had Demerol. So he's done it at work. So he's gone missing. No one knows where he is. The patient's been left, and obviously they sort that out. And Barbara's at home going, oh, my God, where is he? She can't get hold of him, nothing. So she's at home and she hears the door unlock, sometime later, and a completely dishevelled, dirty and bloody shit. Looked like he'd been hit by a truck. She said it wasn't that he just was a little bit kind of, not quite pulled together like he was. She said he looked nearly homeless. He was just an absolute mess. So he comes into the house, and she said, I have got 2 small boys, and yes, the man is my husband, but I have a drugged up man in my house roaming sort of around. She said the kids were like terrified. Little Mike has got Jerry and like trying to protect him from their own father because they don't quite know what to make of their dad. It's clearly not behaving like their father, because by all accounts he'd been an incredible dad. Like, he was with them, he'd read to them. I mean, he's a doctor, so he's often not there, but when he was there reading them stories out in the playground, they're always on vacations, teach them to ride a bike, all the stuff that dads do. There's no suggestion that he hadn't been an incredible father. So when this is going on, the kids and Barbara are just terrified and also in shock. So it is quite clear that Dr. Michael has a significant drug problem. And it's at this point that the associates make a stipulation, say, you will not be returning to this practice unless you go to rehab. understandably. And he's remorseful and, of course, says, yes, things have got out of hand. I have a problem.
So he didn't.
Yeah, I've got to get this sorted out. I've got to get this sorted out.
I've only been sleeping on bathroom floors recently.
This is a fairly recent thing, but I'm doing work. So at this point in time, we're only aware of these sort of two instances. And everybody is so shocked, right? Because he is kind of, to a lot of people in their community, Mr. Perfect. She and he have this incredible success story. She's gorgeous, and a great mum, and he's this, ex-footballer, become a, what did I say it was before? Cranial facial surgeon in Manhattan. These people are, living a big, they're super, and everybody is so happy and proud of them. And, by all accounts, they're definitely part of the community. They do lots of stuff with their family. Anyway, but he has a drug problem and it needs to be addressed. So they are sent to a drug rehab facility in West Palm Beach, which is a very fabulous place, let me tell you. And it's apparently exclusively for doctors. So this is, whilst not common, it happens. And you'll often hear of things in stories where nurses and doctors end up with their own habits because they've got accessibility.
They've got access and they are humans.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's got an injury. And it's just, it's like, oh, I'll just do that the once. Oh, I'm in a lot of pain. I'll just do this. And then it's
a very slippery slope.
Very addictive, those drugs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So off he goes to West Palm Beach for his rehab, and he basically realises, he's told that to save his life and their lifestyle and whatever else, there's no other way. So it's a minimum of 3 weeks. And he gets down there, and apparently it's all about, they have their same lifestyle, just no drugs. So it's not supposed to, it's quite unlike other sort of programs that I've heard of, which is all about stripping everything back. This apparently is not stripping anything back except the drugs. Anyway, he lasts a total of 3 days. He comes out and says, they're druggos. I'm not like that. And Barbara says, look.
Should see yourself after a bender, mate. You are
absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
That's right. Try to make me go to rehab. I
he
said,
says no.
I knew that was coming. Foreshadowed.
3 days.
Absolutely. But he does seem very together and very focused when he comes out and says, I'm going to be okay. I know how to manage this.
I'm fine.
Leave with me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No one's leaving that right.
My dad
it's actually,
I'm fine.
It's actually
an alarm bell.
There's an alarm bell. It's actually at Jerry's 3rd birthday, sometime later, that Michael doesn't come home for dinner. So Barbara's calling, leaving voicemail. She can't locate him. She doesn't know where he is.
Sorry, when you say he doesn't come home for dinner, was he supposed? Do you know? Sorry,
yes, for Jerry's birthday.
He was supposed to be at the party.
It's not a party. It was just a dinner. It was just a family dinner.
Just a dinner, right?
So it was just her and the boys and and Michael coming home for dinner. So she said, "Look, to be honest, the kids were kind of waiting for their dad." And she said, "I just, kept high spirits and whatever else." She said, "But I was furious, and I thought, where on earth is he kind of thing."
Get a smack.
So she got the Polaroid camera out and took photos of the kids and was sort of like, okay, boys, let's take a little snap for daddy and whatever else. And she said he didn't turn up. So she puts the kids to bed. They've had the little birthday dinner minus dad, and she's got the shits. So no response to the voicemail, and she starts digging again. So she goes around, and sure enough, what do you reckon she finds? She finds drug paraphernalia. So she goes and gets it all, and she gets the Polaroids, and she puts it on a table, and she just stakes out the dining room table and sits there in the dark until he makes an appearance. When he finally does come in, he wasn't a terrible mess, but he walked in and she goes, right, you've missed your son's birthday. It's either this, and she points to the drugs, or it's the boys, and she points to the Polaroids. You decide. You can't have both. The decision's on you. And she said that she left him and she went up the stairs, and she said he was sobbing at the bottom of the stairs. And she said at that time, she said, I didn't know what to do. She said, because I felt like I was between my marriage and my children. And she said, my first instinct, of course, is that I know that I need to protect my children, but I made these marriage vows. Yeah. I love him for better or for worse. This is clearly the worst. He has a problem. I need to stand by him. I need to help him. But, this is not working, and something's got to change.
Yep.
So again, I'm so sorry. I think that they sort of worked through that again. And she said, there was so much about that time where it wasn't Michael that I knew, the man that I was in love with. She said, this other person that he would become, I just didn't know what was going on. And she said, I was always trying to sort of second guess where we were at. Were things really that bad? I wasn't sure. Anyway, things are not getting better. And a day before little Mike's birthday, she's at home. He's not at home. He's missing again. And she says she has this overwhelming sensation that she needs to go and look for him. So she takes her very young boys and she puts them in the car. It's night. She puts them in the car and she just starts driving around, presumably Fort Lee. And it's not long after that. I don't know how long she was out there for, whether it was 20 minutes, an hour or whatever else. But as she's driving around, she comes across a dozen or so police cars. And she says she just knows that he's going to be involved. So she's panicked, she drives up, she gets to the police line and she goes underneath. She can recognise his car, and his car is split on a telegraph pole.
Oh, my God.
But he is standing over there in handcuffs with two police, one either side of him.
Thank goodness.
And she goes up and a policewoman speaks to her. And she's like, oh, my God, they're saying you can't. She's like, that's my husband's car. And the policewoman says to her, well, your husband's under arrest for possession and distribution of cocaine and Demerol.
And distribution.
Yeah. And he wasn't the one who was driving. A woman was driving the car.
Was there someone else in the car?
Yeah.
And are they alive?
I don't know about that other person, actually. No. I presume they are. You would have thought, I don't know how they both survived, but anyway, there's no talk of her. The idea that they were making the documentary that I saw was this was the lowest point in terms of, he's addicted to opioids. Now he's doing cocaine. He was also intoxicated and been drinking when he was driving here as well. And he was with another woman. And he was with another woman. Yeah, he has. It has been a really.
I'm not even sure that would bother me at this point. Like all the rest of it's enough, thanks.
Yeah.
I just assumed she was a drug mole. I don't assume anything.
I don't know, but there were
drug mole.
It turns out there had been other women, but we don't know about that at this point. But there are other women, including women in his office, but we don't know. It's not sort of public knowledge, and Barbara's not aware of this at the time, but it becomes apparent later that, for instance, he was not the only person within his office that was doing this. When he was partaking initially, I think, in some of the drugs, he was doing it with another woman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw something where someone was saying, why would you take those types of drugs? Aren't they the type of drugs that you have within a surgical situation, this Demerol? And it was all about that relaxation, I think, that real sort of being able to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ever had an endo, and I tell you. Oof.
Yeah.
Calm as. I don't know what Demerol is, but
no, I kind of. It's one of those things that it's used.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I get it confused with Demazin, which is a cough mixture.
Demazin. Yeah,
that's the
one. Me too. So I have no information about why then he doesn't serve time. Anyway, there's just that isn't addressed anywhere that I can find. Because I do know that he goes to rehab. And this is when the young boys, and I've seen them interviewed, are told, one of them they were both told different times, I think, Daddy has to go away for a little while. And the other one was Daddy was on a business trip.
At least Daddy didn't have to go to a farm.
Yeah, like the dogs. Yeah, I remember I've had that one in my own life. Yeah, at least Daddy didn't have to go to a farm. I loved it. Anyway, he at this point, he professes his undying love to Barbara and says that he would do anything to win her back and that he will do anything for the rest of his life to win her back. And she said, look, I know that he really, really, really means it. She said the conversation went for hours. It wasn't just an off-the-cuff comment. She said he knew how bad things had got and what he'd done and what he'd jeopardised. But again, she said, he was my man and I had to stand by him and make sure that he did the right thing. So off he goes to rehab and he comes back and life is good. And whilst he's not no longer a drug addict, I guess you always are, at least he's not apparently using, he has had to be suspended for his dental license was suspended because of his drug addiction. So he wasn't able to go back. And by all accounts, his own admission was, I can't be in a situation where those drugs are around me. I can recognise that. I need to find a new path. I need to find something that I can set up for myself using my skills. Yeah, I need to reskill. So, what would you do if you had been if you had been a brilliant craniofacial surgeon, but you couldn't really be around the drugs? So, he had a pretty brilliant idea, really, and he wanted to take his gift, which was his surgical dexterity, and find it somewhere else. Use it somewhere else.
Yeah.
No. He comes up, he said it's his last chance to use all this study that he's done, what he's brilliant at and what he totally, jeopardized through his drug addiction. And he decides to set up a tissue recovery business. So he's going to use his surgical skills to harvest tissue and bones from corpses so that they can then be used to help the living people who need it. So the way I understand it is people tend to think
Does
that...
he create the corpses that he harvests the tissue from?
No.
Basically now going to be Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah, it just sounds like a very unhealthy career.
No, I get it though, because say, for instance, you are in a horrific car accident and your jaw is ripped off and there's a corpse with a similar facial shape, whatever, and they are happy, they've donated, I assume, their bits, and they take that jawbone and they will put it in my face to reconstruct my face. Like that's what we're talking about, yeah?
That's actually right. It says, so it's the technology...
It's a win for the
absolutely
of the car accident, yeah.
Because a lot of people, in myself included, we think of transplants being, hearts, lungs, big organs. Yeah. And the reality is that's like the tip of the iceberg. That's the small stuff. It's all this other stuff that's needed constantly. Tissue, bone.
I wonder if, I think in the future they might get to a point
ligaments.
Where what do you call it?
Would you rather butt skin on your face or dead person skin on your face?
I think if you have no face, you'll take what you can get.
Exactly.
I think I'd go butt skin. Yeah, but they normally take that from other parts of your body.
What if in the same horrific car accident?
What if you've got no skin anywhere else?
Yeah, third degree burns over all of my body, so there's nothing to graft.
Yeah.
So you have to take it from something, somewhere.
Yeah. It's perfectly legitimate business. It's sort of the technology that allows transplantation of critical organs also enables the far more common transplantation of tissue. Yeah. Bone can be used to repair fractures, veins for heart bypass surgery, tendons and ligaments can restore mobility. Harvesting organs is allowed in New York State.
They use pig veins or pig arteries for heart surgery a while back. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, I think so. Was it? Tell me this, was it a good career change for him? Are we going to get to that? Because it just feels like
Clarky's not loving it, but I get the point.
I'm not loving the jump from rehab and all of this to... It just feels like there's a shit show.
I don't know. He thinks it's...
he's doing the medical work without...
altruistic, I think. Yeah. He thought that he was able to really make a positive impact and help people, people who are alive.
I'm sure he was temporarily.
I mean, his other option was to become a funeral director and just put people's faces back together.
I can tell you now there's more to this podcast. Swanny didn't bring us this story to this point. That's what's going to happen next.
Wait for the reveal.
I'm not sure about that. So anyway, he starts this business called Biomedical Tissue Services, BTS. And he thinks it's going to be the way forward. It's going to redeem him in terms of he's going to be able to make a success of this and prove to his family that he's the guy that he was destined to be.
He's not a dick.
But he also gets to use his skills, and then he believes that he's going to be able to help people. So it's like tick, tick, tick. As I said, what it can do, he was able to...
Tick, tick, tick. Boom.
Burn victims, people who had lost an eye and were blind an eye. So the idea was anything that he could take from a cadaver that was approved and usable, then he figured that it would be able to help thousands of people all across the US. He and his family saw it as a very altruistic, humanitarian sort of pursuit. And everybody was really proud of him. And again, everybody really wanted him to succeed. There's nobody in his family or otherwise that was comfortable with him being this...
a plumber.
Drugged out. I mean, that's the worst bit. Or then what are they going to do? He was a brilliant guy who, like people who have drug addictions, you can't just turn it on and off. So this seemed to be a great way forward.
Until one
He
day.
really starts to thrive. He becomes
When you said the name of his company, you threw me a little bit because
BTS.
I know. I'm like,
It sounds like a
boy band, a Korean.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like it if it's not, but yeah. Or behind the scenes or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, good one.
I have to keep writing it down. Biomedical tissue services. Anyway, so it starts to go really well, and he really starts to become the confident self that he was before. He's really vibrant. He's building the business. It's starting to take off.
Back.
He is back. It looks like he's passed the drugs, and his wife and children are happy. Life is good. So good, in fact, that on the 23rd of May 2002, he and Barbara renew their wedding vows 10 years from the day that they got married.
But what about his mistresses?
Well, we don't know about them, right? We've forgotten about that. And I don't know that there is any at that point. I don't actually know. Don't know. At this point, when he's not doing drugs and life is good, I think I don't know. He might actually be on the straight and narrow. I think so.
Okay.
And he's present in their lives. He's there for everything that he needs to be. I've seen him talk at her sister's wedding. He's part of the community. And everyone's just, I think, really relieved
to have him back, yeah,
and so proud of him for the effort that he's made. And he's like, he's a hero again. And Barbara feels like, she said, I got my dream man back. Old Michael was back. We had a really healthy marriage. He was healthy, and thank God the nightmare was over. So she's just so, so happy. That is until she gets a call. They've been on holidays. This is a couple of years later. This is late 2004. So the renewing of the vows was 2002. When did I say he set up the business? 2000, I think. So we're a good couple of years in now, sort of 4 years into BTS. So it's very established, doing well. They've been away on another holiday. They get back after vacation. She's unpacking the bags. God, aren't we lucky, lucky, lucky? And she gets a panicked call from Michael. And Michael's like, oh, my God, you're never going to guess what's going on here. I've got the DA and the FBI in my office. I don't know why. And she's like, what do you mean you don't know why? And why? What would they play? She said, they're taking all our files. And he says he's got no idea why. And she's like, okay, well, just what can I do? And she's like, we've got to sit tight. So she said that she hangs up the phone. She's like, oh, that sounds good.
Odd.
And she said, he sort of said, it must be one of my associates, not me. I haven't done anything wrong. I can't imagine what it is. I've got no idea. In the fall of 2004, so late 2004, police receive a call to come to a funeral home in Brooklyn. The funeral home is being sold, and the new owner has found something that he deems rather strange. So the police arrive, and they're led up a staircase to a second floor, and in that room, there's a hole in the bottom of the floor and a winch. And the winch clearly takes bodies up to what is effectively an operating theatre. When I say theatre, it's just basically, it reminds me of those, a nappy changing facility. It looks like that's terrible. It's like this plastic, terrible thing in the middle of the room. And there are sort of like buckets with hoses and whatnot all around it.
I guess hygiene isn't as important if they're already dead.
I guess not. Well, or is it? So this funeral parlour turns out that it's kind of being sort of run as the head office. That's not quite the right word. It's not really the head office, but the main operating section of biomedical tissue services involved in tissue harvesting, which again, remember, tissue harvesting is perfectly legal if it's, follows it there. Yep.
Do you have to have a license for it?
Well, yes, I've read two different things. Yes, but he didn't. But I don't. That's a little bit confusing. There are things that you have to do to conform, but it's not as difficult as you'd think.
Not that hard, yeah.
So long as you do the right things, yeah. So straight up, the police go, "Oh, looks a little bit odd." Like, I mean, I understand you do stuff to bodies, but this feels like it's again another. It's separate, but it's kind of saying
Sweeney Todd.
I haven't seen this before.
Yeah. And it looked quite macabre. Anyway,
it sounds like a Sweeney Todd thing because it was the opposite. He would kill them in the barber shop up the top, and then they'd drop down to the pie shop where Mrs. Lovett would make them into pies. The best pies in London.
Oh, God. So first of all, the police need to go and just check that the consent forms from the families of the deceased are there and they're accurate and everything's, above board. And they find out pretty much immediately that everything is wrong. They'll all have the right name, but pretty much all the other details, the addresses are wrong, social security numbers are wrong. So then they start to wonder, did the next of kin give permission
This
for
is
their
like
loved ones to be?
tombstoning dead people.
Yeah.
Do you know in sales,
Oh,
when I worked at Foxtel many, many years ago, we used to watch this thing called tombstoning. And it was where someone would go around, often in a new estate where the houses aren't even built, and they would just put, no, it's called tombstoning because traditionally you use dead people's names, but they just put fake names at these addresses, sign them up, and then they get a commission for that. And by the time
They're gone.
Clarkie's team organised a truck roll for it, the money's been paid out, and they were done. They were gone. So this is like tombstoning, but with dead people. You know what I mean? Like it's a similar
So
thing.
does the person who's profiting from that is the salesperson,
yeah,
and they get their commission.
Yeah. They get
on
the
something
commission
that's never going to
before
happen.
it gets paid out.
It's called fraud, but
It's fraud, but in the biz we used to call it tombstoning.
In the biz.
Mm.
Well, this biz is about anatomical donation and whether or not you, as the next of kin, gave permission for your loved ones to be used as anatomical donation.
Well, sorry, can a person not consent themselves, like an organ donor?
It's slightly different for some reason. I don't think this is on your license or whatever. My understanding is this is very much something that the family decide at that point.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Appreciate you possibly not the expert on this, but
I hope I'm not.
in the instance that the family does consent, is it normal to have a winch set up and a plastic operating table to harvest the skin from the cadaver, or is there another process that would normally be
I
utilised?
don't know the answer to that, but judging by the reaction of the police, which found it, and the new owner, there must have been something amiss,
The new
right?
owner finding it odd is
the new owner is the
more
telltale
concerning,
sign, right?
yeah.
If that was what it looked like in every other funeral home around town, then nothing would have been amiss. They wouldn't have picked anything up at this point. It was because it looked so sinister that they've gone, this doesn't...
very macabre.
It didn't walk like a duck.
Something's not adding up.
No,
Yes, exactly. So when they started looking if people had given permission, they found they absolutely had not. There was no consent. So these people, by the looks of things, it looked like they'd been chopped up and sold.
I know. Imagine that. Like your loved ones had their jaw removed.
Yeah. They start looking into, there's further investigation and time again. It's no permission, nothing. It's not isolated. And it's described as an industrial operation of body snatching.
So hang on a minute. So he just was part of a funeral home, and so everybody that came in for the funeral home, he just took bits out of them?
He had, not necessarily, but nearly.
How did he get them?
He had through the funeral. So he had connections. It wasn't just one funeral home.
Okay.
So for my own account, it was like his business was biomedical tissue services. If you are giving us bodies or whatever else, then I don't know if there were other places there as well, or how they would get all the body. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the funeral parlour gets money. And I think I read somewhere they got like $1,000 per corpse.
And
undertakers, that's right. Yeah. He established a network of undertakers whom he paid up to $1,000 per corpse. And soon he took on assistants and formed the business Biomedical Tissue Services.
To bury a body, and particularly if you've got pallbearers at the funeral, surely you would notice that the...
Correct. We'll come to that. So it's not like they took the body and nothing went back.
Oh.
Sometimes they had to, because this is the difference between, say, a body that was cremated
and always view your loved one at the...
Even then, I don't think that this is going to help you a lot.
Did they take it from the butt cheeks or something, not the face?
My experience of viewing dead people, they've been dead for some time by the time you view them.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose if you're taking everything from neck down,
you can't tell it. You don't know what you're looking at.
You
can't tell what you're looking at.
True.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There could be no body under the suit. It could just be
a mannequin.
So this is where the term body snatching comes to bear.
Okay.
And this is when the tabloid media get involved, and they're having a field day. So there's actually there's one day, and the front page of every, like New York Post, New York Times, not the New York Times tabloid, but all of those newspapers, everyone's talking about Dr. Michael. He's saying that he's a ghoul, and that he's guilty of body snatching, of course. He says, absolutely not. Let's investigate this. I've done nothing wrong. Let's see what happens.
Calm down, everyone.
At the same time, the police are furthering their investigation, and they have to go and exhume bodies. So they go, they end up in graveyards.
From other people's faces or from graves?
From graves.
Because the body's on the face or on the...
But I don't...
No.
Do we know where all the bits have
walking
gone?
around.
We'll get to that.
Because surely
Not-
that's
not
wrong.
entirely.
Oh, God.
Well,
Do
that's
we
important.
have to? I feel sick now. Ugh.
So
where
they
bits have
start
gone.
to exhume the bodies. And remember, they haven't been in the ground for that up to about maximum, I think it was like 4 years. So
Long
they've got their
enough.
bodies in a state of decay,
Yeah.
and the ones that are there are able to undertake sort of an
what an
autopsy on
awful
them.
job.
One of the first bodies
There's a
that they
lot,
take
Swanny.
out,
It's a lot of
first,
Vicks. A lot of Vicks in
the
your
first
nose,
body
yeah.
they take out,
Barrier
the
cream.
lady's leg bones had been removed and replaced with PVC plumbing pipe.
Oh, for
So you see the X-ray, and she's got like this pelvis
yeah.
made out of fucking plumbing pipe, PVC. It's so bad.
why
But
would they
apparently
even
that's
bother?
commonly done. That is something done when people do know or they've lost something like that, that undertakers do put PVC pipes into.
Stiffen you out.
I had to mute myself then.
But I'm
Or did you vomit
confused
on
by
yourself?
that. I'm
I
confused
had
by
a
that.
bad reaction.
What are you confused by?
Like, if no one's looking at the legs, it's not like when you go and view a body, it's not like you're like, get her to stand up for me. Like, they're lying
I just think
out
it's structure. I think it's just a bit of structure potentially. I don't know.
Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
I suppose it might be about, like, no, I don't know.
I think it's a structure. Otherwise,
Maybe
what would be in
keeping the
it?
shoes
It'd just be
pointing
like,
Flesh, little flat
yeah,
flesh.
yeah.
So
Imagine
it must have
going,
been decent PVC pipe, though. Like, not. I was
I don't
thinking
know.
about conduit. Actually, I had in
You're-
my head
What have
conduit.
the
Can you
bones
not
got
do
to do
that,
with
conduit?
BTS?
You were not thinking about conduit. You were thinking
I
about
was
something
not
else.
doing a cock-sucking face. I was
She
Got the
was
first
so-
two letters right.
gesticulating
conduit. I just
but-
called it conduit.
But I think
do
you might mean a 2-inch pipe, yeah? I think you're talking about one of these ones, Swanny.
A BBC. No.
Where were the bones going? What have they got to do with
They've been
BTS?
sent
So
off to
they're using
someone
bones.
else.
They're using bones. They're using everything they can get his hands on.
All the
Bones,
bits, yeah.
tissue.
That's not
All
right.
yeah, it's nasty. So they also found inside
This is
people
so not where I thought
tissues,
this story was gonna
fabric.
go.
I know, that's why I just asked you not to have a look, because I was watching it and it was awesome.
I thought it was
the
gonna be a
Tyler
murder,
show,
and
I
like
went.
suddenly
I
I'm
thought
like, body
I thought they
snatching,
so
what?
reckon he's going to have an affair and murder a woman. There, I was like,
that's going to knock him
I
off.
was trying.
yeah.
I was trying to lead you in that direction as well. To
Good
be fair,
job,
'cause
good job.
That was where I was at.
Well done.
And then I'm like, oh no,
Hook,
this
line,
is
and sinker.
this is
Well
a
done.
body snatching story. This is the best bit. I was so excited when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, hello.
Ooh, positivity
I was
boys.
so excited when I saw it.
Well, it wasn't
You
where
know
I
you've
thought it
been
was headed.
podcasting for too long when.
Yeah, there's
No, it's
a
all about
real
the
like
story
twist.
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she loves it. She loves it.
Yeah. So
Or it's the absolute ridiculous, like little, what was the idiot Phil? Petite Phil? Fucking idiot.
Petite Phil.
I still
Yes,
don't like him.
Fucking petite Phil. He has no place in this podcast.
oh gosh.
Except for
So
that episode.
it becomes very clear
Oh, gosh.
after they've done their
Golly.
exhumations of the bodies that there is a body snatching ring
Wow.
in the heart of New York and making millions of dollars.
Wow. That's insane.
Death certificates had been
Jesus.
falsified, and this is really important as well. So what he was doing
Death
was
certificates.
this is important because part of the concept of a tissue
someone must be
harvest
dead enough.
is it has to be healthy, right? You have to be able to pass on healthy bone, healthy tissue.
That's what
so
I
if
was
someone's
getting at
dying,
before, about how much
yes.
time they've been dead for when
Totally,
you're taking
how
bits
the
out.
tissue is treated.
Yeah.
Or that's actually secondary to the
You
death
could
thing. So
create
first,
zombies by putting rotting skin onto someone.
Well, it's not going to work very well.
well,
That's
it's
the point.
not. It's not going to create healthy people, that's for sure. So he's falsifying death certificates and saying that people have perhaps died of cardiac arrest or natural causes, when in fact some of the people had actually had
Who
cancer.
is?
People had hepatitis, HIV. These people who had passed. So
No,
not everybody,
who's
but
falsifying the death certificates.
Dr. Michael.
But surely the death certificate is issued when
It's
the
not
person
even that
dies in
It's a
kind
the
of
fake one.
doctor.
But he's not. He's falsifying something after the fact,
He's
right?
pretending
not,
to be
yeah.
another
So there is a
doctor,
real death
yeah.
certificate somewhere. and
Presumably
he's
there
presuming-
was, and then he's got his own
He
sort
just
of
liquid papers it out,
Producing something
photocopies
There
else.
must
it.
have been, because in their investigations they must have been able to go back and somehow cross-reference that.
The funeral director does not provide a death certificate. The
No,
coroner
it comes from the
or
hospital where
doctor
it's
or
from.
someone.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be providing the death certificate for legal
No,
reasons. He'd be
no.
providing it to
Pass on the bits
person
to
who
say
is-
this person was perfectly
Yeah,
healthy and
yeah.
wonderful.
I think so.
Here, have their
Yeah,
lungs.
yeah.
I didn't mention
Look,
they have
it's
lung
very
cancer, but have
complicated,
their
and I'm-
lungs. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure there are other levels to it which I'm not in a position to sort of go into. But the idea is that not only the cause of death is important in terms of what you're going to then take from the body to put into another body, but also then how it's then treated. So they were saying that there were situations where there's a window of time, of course, from the body being deceased, and then you can harvest.
That's the bit I don't understand. It feels like he's taking tissue well after that window is closed.
That's my understanding. That is absolutely my understanding. That all the checks and balances were not in place.
They're stale at that point. As I understand
I liked him better when he was a drug addict.
Yeah, me too. If you're going to harvest from a body, you have to do it within the first couple of hours of them dying, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe not the bone bit. But even the bone.
Yeah, maybe some of the stuff's not quite.
But even the bone's got blood vessels and, marrow and stuff in it. So it'll start
there must be a way that
immediately at death.
Yes, but there must be a window within the time that they're allowed to do it from a funeral home. So that's permissible. That's it. But it's just then all these sort of, he was working a number of loopholes, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, okay.
So what is sort of the upshot is that tissue and bones were going out to thousands of people across the country and nobody had any idea because once it had gone, no one then actually back-referenced or checked anything. No one's got a clue.
It was 2004?
When they found out. Yeah. This is late 2004.
Okay.
Emerging industry.
Yeah. So he maintains his innocence for a period of time, certainly to his wife and whatever else. He was arrested not until December 2007. Michael was arrested for stealing bone and tissue from corpses. And he did admit he took the bodies, he finally, with no consent.
Putting them onto other people's faces.
Twist my own
Wasn't
faces.
That a big part of it? Oh.
It was a criminal enterprise that was worth more than $4.6 million, and they estimate that a total number of bodies harvested was over 1,000 that he actually interfered with and did stuff. He finally, the guy who was his attorney, I guess, was actually his cousin, and he said, look, it became very clear that he was guilty. He said that, and they had a great case. He said, so I had to go to him and say, what have you done?
You're fucked.
What are you going to do? They're going to get, and so he admitted his guilt. He did eventually. So the former oral surgeon, the CEO and executive director of BTS was convicted in February 2000 and sentenced in June 2000 to 18 to 54 years
that can't
imprisonment.
Be the right year.
No?
We were at 2004 before.
June 2000, yeah.
Oh, it's funny because I'd written 200, so I just made that up then. I've actually got convicted Feb 200. I went, well, that's not right. Was convicted in February 2006. Now, Michael died in July 2013, aged 49 years. And I've read two totally different things. One, the New York Times said that he died of metastatic liver cancer. That was released by his lawyer. I also read in Wikipedia that he died of bone cancer. So he died of cancer. I did want to talk about one of the other guys who was who worked with him. And this is from an article in phillymag.com. And I just love the way it talks. It's like down but not out. Mastromarino regrouped in 2002 by opening Biomedical Tissue Services, or BTS, a cadaver body parts recovery company. Cadaver, I can't say it.
Cadaver, it sounds like you're trying to say
cadaver. Lady Cadaver. That's probably why I'm getting it confused.
Lady Cadaver.
Cadaver.
Yeah.
A cadaver. That's why I'm getting that wrong. Body Parts Recovery Company. He had knowledge of the business through his experience as a surgeon since he sometimes transplanted human parts into his patients. Whilst it's legal in the US to profit from organ and tissue donation, Mastromarino would exploit a loophole that allows companies to charge for handling and processing tissue and bone. This is what I like. Mastromarino met Lee Cruschetta, a nurse then in his early 30s, who was adept with power tools and enjoyed medicine's similarities to carpentry.
I said plumber earlier. I should have said carpenter. There you go.
I just love that sentence.
Building construction.
A nurse then in his early 30s who was adept with power tools and enjoyed medicine's similarities to carpentry.
One of those ones.
He also had experience working for tissue banks.
Do you remember Sale of the Century when they would introduce our next contestant?
Listen,
that sentence belongs in a game show.
I really want to finish this paragraph. This is how macabre the whole thing. Cruschetta was put in charge of field operations, a position that had him overseeing a Dickensian cast of cutters.
That doesn't. It's funny that you say Dickensian cast because when you were talking about the place where you had the winch that
the winch. Yeah.
I was transported to Port Arthur. When you go and see Port Arthur, they have a room, and it's not so much about lifting up through a winch, but they've got a autopsy table from when the prisoners were there, like in 18 whatever, and there's like this drain where the blood would be drained away. The whole macabreness of it, that's what I was picturing in my mind when you said about that whole funeral parlour. Is it a bit weird that we've got a winch to winch them up to the other room? And so when you say Dickensian, I'm like, perfect time period. Yep.
Yes. One of the things that they were obviously trying to get a handle on is how many people were affected.
Thousands. Well, there's the person who's got the possibly emphysema lung or skin cancer, skin graft, but the families of those people too.
Oh, yeah, we'll come on to that. Yeah. But there's a couple of different articles and a couple of different people are mentioned. And there's one woman who gets very sick. A Betty Pfaff was one person who suffered severe infection, septic shock, underwent dialysis, and ultimately paralysis due to having received an implant made from infected.
What did she get?
Cadaver tissue from Mastromarino's coming. It was to do with her stomach. So I don't remember. It was a hernia operation. I read that late last night. I can't remember.
Surely, if a corpse is in a funeral parlour, the time frame has closed. I'm shocked.
Other patients who received BTS-derived tissue and body parts include a Colorado woman who had to repeat this. I think she's got off quite lightly. Her ACL replacement surgery after her first BTS tendon failed.
Shock. I mean,
an Ohio woman who developed syphilis.
What?
After receiving a bone from BTS.
Syphilis.
An Ohio man who developed both HIV and hepatitis C after receiving BTS bone implants in surgery. So, tell me, were you expecting Dr. Michael Mastromarino to be a body snatcher
or a victim?
Not at all.
Because you talked about him in the past tense at the beginning, so I thought, oh, he's dead for sure.
Look
at you cunning snake.
Dead. He is dead.
Oh, he's dead now, yes.
Oh,
at 49,
goodness.
bone cancer. That's probably poetic justice.
Yeah.
Do we know how his wife is?
Babs.
We do. She's got quite a high profile. So her name, she now goes by the name of Barbara Reifel, Reifel. And I've seen her, she was in the documentary that I watched, which was called Love on a Betrayal. Yeah, Love on a Betrayal. And the episode was called Under Your Skin. That's how I didn't want to give that away. And it's actually like episode 1. So I didn't get very far. I
would do anything for love, but I won't do that.
Oh, yeah.
I was Googling her and she's had quite a profile. So she's been on Oprah, but that was a long time ago. She was on Oprah 2010. So whilst he was in Rikers and they put her in front of some victims and
Your
stuff.
Your favourite place, Rikers, where you go for
Rikers,
holidays.
Rikers. But she, I believe, they did pay out victims. There was like $4.6 million in monies that went to victims of the families of the people who had been used. And there was someone famous. I don't know who this person is. I don't know if either of you guys will have, or any of you guys will, sorry. The BTS scandal became international news after it was determined that the remains of the deceased broadcaster, Alistair Cook, who is English but lived in the US, were among those that had been violated and sold in New York. The Cook case was featured on a 2008 episode of Horizon, How Much Is Your Dead Body Worth? That is a story.
Well, I finally Googled them after the instruction of not. And I don't get it. They're not that hot.
I thought they were good looking.
They're fine. They're just very Italian looking to me. Like Italian
maybe it's on
New
the
Yorker.
wedding. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
But later when he's in going to prison, he doesn't.
At their wedding day, they were very handsome. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure they're a fine couple.
They were fine. I would agree with that. But on their wedding day, they did look very snazzy.
They had a nice day, right?
Yeah.
As you do on your wedding day because you spend a lot of money to look snazzy. Goodness me, I didn't see body snatching being the theme of tonight.
No, did not.
It's so gross. It's so macabre.
It's quite interesting because what I was trying to get my head into is, okay, if someone's dead, they're dead, right? But it's that idea of going, you have this sort of relationship with the process or with the body, whatever it's going to be, whether it be a cremation or, a burial. And to have... there's so many parts to this. To have someone deliberately then go, I don't care what you said you want. This is what we're going to do. Like, there's that. Then there's probably how brutally that would have been done. I'm sure it wasn't going, let's do my
Reticulating
finest surgery.
sores,
Yeah, it's like, let's just...
Up and
we've got someone good with power tools and can see a correlation between medicine and carpentry.
Carpentry.
I can see the correlation myself, in fairness.
So can I, but we probably all can, but we don't really want to. And then, of course, we get to everyone's identity and paperwork and all of that being changed. Then the idea that, people who have succumbed to whatever it was that they had wrong with them.
I don't like that the people who are already sick.
Yeah.
Or in need of some kind of transplant.
Yeah.
Receiving something that would make them sick with something that they didn't already have. It's one thing that you rejected the implant or whatever. Your body rejects it. That's fine. I get that. But to get syphilis from bone.
Yeah.
Or what was the other one? Hepatitis
C. I thought you got off lightly with the knee reconstruction, having to have it done twice.
The ACL, I agree with you.
That was that'd be the least you worries.
Deal. Like, you didn't get
it was an odd example.
Disease.
Yeah.
Did you say someone got HIV as well?
Yeah, one person got HIV and hepatitis.
Same person.
The same person.
And HIV.
Double bad luck. I mean, horrendous from a dead person too.
Imagine the people who then find out what they got. Imagine having to have to question that. Imagine what it would have been like. Let's say we lived in New York at the time, and someone in your family has, whether they've just passed or you've got someone who's just had surgery or whatever else, going far out. Do you reckon we were somehow implicated by the decisions that were made so far down a track that had nothing to do with you wouldn't know?
It's horrendous.
Must have really had people freaking out about Dr. Michael Mastromarino. He doesn't even get his own wiki. I can't believe that. He only gets a company one. Yes, doesn't.
Yeah, he gets the BTS one, yeah?
He only gets BTS, that's it. I reckon he deserves one. And I also have found out...
A nut punch, that's what he deserves.
Where did I thought I had a source somewhere. Maybe it was just his wife talking now I'm talking recently even. And she's like, oh, no, there were so many women. I wasn't the only one. He was having affairs all the time.
I'm sorry, Barbara, but I'm going to sentence him to accidentally overdosing and the first time that his mother found him in the bathroom.
Done.
Because, all this could have been avoided. He's going to die anyway of bone cancer, which is, awful and very painful, I'm sure. And I bet in his last hours they gave him fentanyl again. But
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, they must have, because he would have been in terrible
went out pain. He was very
bone
happy.
Cancer is horrendous.
You've come full circle.
And I don't wish that on anyone. So an easier death from a fentanyl or Demerol.
If there's something along the lines of body snatching that you find interesting, last night I watched, there was a suggestion from Wiki where they have in popular culture. I watched season 17, episode 11, called Remains of the Day on Law and Order, which is an episode. They don't muck around. It was in 2007. CSI did a story called Meat Market in February 2007. Similar storyline in Bones, The Graft and the Girl. Another similar storyline in Body of Proof, Skin and Bones. And there was something that I couldn't find anywhere, but there's a documentary TV series called American Greed, and one of the episodes is The Body Snatcher. The Body Snatcher, Michael Mastromarino, but I couldn't.
It's really awful because could he not have done it just legally and been successful?
Yes, but probably not as successful.
You wouldn't have got the money.
Yes and no. Nowhere near the success because there's nowhere near the bodies available. It's a real problem. There's a real shortage of skin and tissue and whatever else. So that's why once he worked out how to get the bodies, it was a money-making machine. Because that's the barrier. The barrier is there are not enough bodies and or people willing to consenting to do it. That's the barrier to, supply. The demand's always there.
Well,
so he worked that out from a business point of view. And
I'm not supporting this idiot, but maybe we all have to have a think about what we consent to before we die and tell our relatives, because there are a lot of people who benefit. Like we talk about the guy who had, poor bastard, HIV and hepatitis, the ACL lady. Some people had a bad run. Some people got what they needed.
Yeah.
I mean, quite a lot when you talk about the thousands of people or at least 1,000, did you say? It was a lot. So some people received
1,000 bodies, not 1,000.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, because you could have got more bits from one body. So, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Do the math. Say, on average,
You can get more than one
Yes.
piece of wood from a piece of wood.
No, it's exactly. I get your point. So let's say maybe 5,000 people minus all the people who got, like, say, 100 who had bad experiences. But, you know, and that's the funny thing. I bet that's how he justified it. I'm doing a good thing.
Yep, and
I
making
think so.
squillions. No, I think you can eat a rotten bag of dicks. Or a bag of rotten dicks. Probably a better way of putting it.
Let's go back to all the corpses as you already desecrated and when they're male. Take all their dicks off and then make him eat those.
Yeah, but they got to be exhumed or something.
Well, and
really
and they
bad
won't
ones.
be in a good state.
Bad ones, not good, not healthy tissue.
A bag of dried dicks.
Not even.
No,
Try
not
to be all
dried.
right. They've got to be mushy and
I
like
agree. They've got to be like
much more festering.
decomposing and
Decomposing
rotty
dicks.
and stinky.
Imagine the leathery
Otherwise,
nature of a
dried ones and sound like little umbilical
dick,
cords.
though.
No, but that's like, you know.
That'd be fine, like chewy.
do that.
like a pig's ear. You could
Yeah,
chew
you'd
on
be
that
fine.
for hours.
Your dog's probably got one out.
Not jerky.
Peter, we love
We
one.
can deal with that. That's fine. No, that's not.
You
as
can probably buy
disgusting.
Peter a bag of dicks and they'd love it. As long as they're dried. Maybe we could start a new pet brand called Bag of Dicks and have like. I reckon people would love it. It's a good comedy present, you know.
You could have different sizes, like bag of horse sticks, which
Yeah.
is the really big ones
For big
for
dogs.
big
Big dogs, yeah. What did you get? You know, the pooch for Christmas present. Oh, look, darling, we got you a bag of dicks.
It could well be a gap in the market.
Dried wieners. Like, I don't
It
know.
could be a gap in the market.
I think it is. I think there's a comedy
Bag
thing
of
to it.
chicken
I think
dicks.
people would like it. Yeah.
I tell you what, you're laughing, but the other day I was in a pet shop and they were trying to sell.
Damn
It wasn't
right, I'm laughing.
a whole kangaroo tail. It was a bit of a kangaroo tail for like
It wasn't a kangaroo tail.
$20.
Yeah.
It was a dicky.
No, it wasn't. That's my point, right? Tiny little piece of kangaroo tail, which my dog will eat in 5 seconds. Imagine what we could make of all the dicks in the surplus because no one's doing anything
Come up
with
here.
them.
You can get the whole kangaroo on the side of the road for nothing.
No,
Hopeless.
I'm with you, Swanny. I think there's a
Thank
gap in
you.
the market there.
Bag of dicks.
Yeah. Bag
For
of
dogs.
Bag of dicks for dogs.
Dicks for
yeah.
dicks.
Anyway, we
Dicks for
digress.
dogs.
I need to write that down.
All
So
right,
maybe
we digress.
bag
And-
of dicks for
Any more
dogs.
sentencing
And
Be
the
a
slogan
dick.
could be, chocolate ain't good for dogs, but
Bag
dicks.
of dicks is great. Yeah. It's funny because I was thinking about Sada Abe the other day. I don't
You
know
think
why.
about Summer Armour a lot.
I don't.
You often
Yes,
bring
you
up.
do.
Because
You
Yeah.
do.
I was thinking
I
about
never
it
do, and you
early
always
episodes.
do.
I was cleaning up my files on my computer, and I came across that, and I thought, isn't that funny? You know, we haven't talked about a bag of dicks for ages.
Oh, there we
Completely
go.
unprompted. You just brought it up.
Unknown to you, I was actually working on a business model in the background for a pet treat.
Look, I think
If only I'd known. If only I'd known. When the twins were
shit.
in year 6, they had to do a market.
trademark. We
They had to
put
do
it
a
on
market
Snickers.
Yeah.
with the girls' school. They had to have a product, and Ash's product was
Oh, wasn't
pet
something.
Bag of dicks.
there were different pet things. One of them was like a pencil that had their names and everything, and there was some other pet thing. And I did the marketing for him where he's smiling, holding up Arthur with like saying, I could have done that. We could have had Bag of Dicks for dogs.
And the teacher would have
So
loved
could it.
it.
Year 6 would have loved it.
Yeah.
Schmitty, you're going to have to delay the release of this episode till Swanny gets her business plan done and the patents all
very
And the
sorted.
patents don't-
Does a patent or something and gets that in because otherwise someone will swoop in and get it.
It's just
What
got
are
such
the
a ring
different
to
businesses
it.
is
Bag
gonna
of Dicks for
fucking rip us
dogs.
off. Yeah.
Bag of Dicks for dogs.
Yeah. Anyway, any other kind of sentence? I take that's a no.
No,
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
yeah.
All right. Well, on that note of Bag of Dicks for Dogs, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.